welcome back to Nat's Knackers Yard. Excuse me while I serve my tea. And welcome back to the XS650. I've not played with this a lot recently because I've been messing around more with the SV. So you know, as a bit of a recap, I've got the electric button on at the top, the starter button at the top, to try and help it. I have been through this. I have taken the side off to sort out its starter issue. So the electric starter, the cog was just spinning. So I've squeezed the retaining pin inside, put it all back on, started past tense on the button, or by sort of jury rigging there ever so slightly the button, but the kickstart stopped working. Whilst doing all that, I managed to balls up the clutch somehow, so I need to get in, sort out the clutch basket, sort out the clutch, and then try put it all back together again. While I'm there, see if I can sort out the kickstart, which has no compression anymore. And I don't want to yam it around too much because it's been draining of oil throughout that time. Another sip of my cup of tea. Yeah, so it's now Sunday. I normally do a little bit of time on a Saturday as well, but all this coronavirus restrictions and everything, we just really needed a decent family day yesterday. So apologies for not putting stuff up, but I had other things to do and they needed to be done. It was a great day. I'm aware that I quite often just zoom through a lot of this, say what I'm going to do a chunk, then catch up. But I thought this time, by way of a change, I'll do a bit of a story or a bit of a chat, and kind of how I got to what I'm doing, really, for anybody that's interested, and introduce some of the personalities on the way. So I've not been riding that long. I've only been riding about 3 years in the grand scheme of things. I've only had my full licence about 3 years. I had 125s when I was a kid and tried to kill myself several times and kind of lost interest, didn't think about it for years, and probably slightly as a midlife crisis, came back into it, and I was fortunate enough to be able to get my licence, and I bought the divvy that's sat behind you at the moment, that I have recently converted and gone naked conversion, etc, etc. There's a few videos on the site if you're a diversion owner or if you're interested. Whilst I was doing that, my first forays into, and they kind of playing with bikes, I suppose, I was watching the various YouTube channels and was on a few sites and this and the other, and I think I might have fallen across Charlie's site then, but saw a conversation with the motorcycle rescuer site, which I'll link at the bottom, who I now know as Charlie and is a good mate. But a guy asked a question. He said, anyone in the London area know anyone that does ultrasonic cleaning? I need to sort out my calves. And Charlie replied to him and said, hello mate, there's a few videos on my site on how to do it, but you know, if you're local to London, come along, I'll show you how to do it. At which point, being the necky twat that I am, I jumped in the conversation and said, oh, can I join? And the reason I bring this up is this was a year ago. This was, I think, 3rd, 4th of January. I've just been looking through some of my old messenger chat. So, yeah. So after a brief conversation with the missus, telling exactly where I was going, where I was going to be, bearing in mind we'd not long ago had the conversation with the kids about meeting people that you meet on the internet. Poodle down the road. I mean, I'm Watford area, and Charlie, the motorcycle rescuer, is Islington area. So yeah, poodle down the road, met up, and in fact, I think I'll see if I can find a link and pop it in. Met up with Louis and his uncle. Slightly strange experience walking into, I don't know, the set, I suppose, of something that you've been watching on YouTube. Feels a weird experience, but had a really good day tinkering with bikes. Got Louis' bike up and running, all good. Still in contact with Louis through the Motorcycle Rescue and Jake Korb Facebook site again. See if I can sort out a link to that. Yeah, and that was kind of the first contact with Charlie, I suppose. Who is a sound bloke. He will do absolutely anything for anyone, and to the point where he actually picked up my first project bike, my what was it, the 500 Kawasaki, the bright green thing. Bought it off Facebook. It was closer to him than me, so he hired a van, picked it up and dropped it off, and then helped me out on it as well, so an indication of the type of guy he is. So Charlie is by title the Motorcycle Rescuer, and it's really fitting as a title because that's what he is and what he does. Give me 2 seconds, I need a bit of cardboard. He is a rescuer. So, and he's kind of the bit that got me thinking about it, because he takes bikes that are shagged. Takes bikes that are shagged and gets them back on the road. So he's rescuing them, he's bringing them back to life, he's getting a few more years worth of enjoyment out of them for future owners. Am I just blocking this with my knee? I am a little bit. Terrible cinematography. Let's move you around a little bit. There you go, that should be a bit better for you. So Charlie rescues bikes. He gets them back up and running and off to the market, which is a great thing to do. That's kind of, my push was to get bikes working again. Not necessarily to make them the most beautiful thing in the world, but to get them working again, usable again, and running again. And crucially, the one bit that we really have in common with Charlie is to get them safe. Now, if you look at the stuff that Charlie does, and Warren is a really good example actually. He's currently, or he's recently, I should say, it's a bit wobbly, recently did a side stand switch on a guy called Warren's bike, and I met Warren briefly on a trip to Charlie's. Warren's a childminder that looks like a minder, big old unit, and certainly wouldn't argue with him, not for long. Well, I would, because I know I could outrun him. But yeah, perfect example. Parked his bike up, parked his scooter up. Somebody knocked it over and buggered off, which was really irritating. And Charlie will do everything that he can to salvage that bike so that he can, so that Warren can get back on the road. Really good example of the sort of work Charlie is and the sort of work that he does. There's quite a few sites like ours kicking around on Tintranet. Probably the most well known out of the lot is probably Del Boy's Garage, which is really good stuff. Really good things on how to do things properly. But the issue with Del Boy's Garage for me personally is he has every bit of equipment in the world and immaculate facilities to do it in. So as much as it's useful, and there are some really useful videos on there, there's a Fork Seals one that's just a lifesaver. It's not where I am. Not without drastic amounts of funding and a new garage and about 20 years worth of mechanic experience. What there are, and the reason why I'm doing this spiel at the beginning is to give shout outs to those that need it, to give shout outs. On the scale of those that to watch for people like me and probably like you that tinker around in garages. You've obviously got Charlie as the Motorcycle Rescuer, as I've mentioned, a relatively new one and a small site, so if you're watching this, please go and check out. And again, I'll put a link at the bottom. Motorcycle Man UK, who is at the other end of the spectrum makes it sound like autism, the other end of the spectrum, who is fundamentally a restorer. I mean, he's got great facilities to do it, and he's got all the bits and tools, but he takes things down to the frame, to the bare metal, and works from scratch. And some really in-depth stuff. So yeah, please check his stuff out. Nick's a nice bloke, and he just chats away to the camera similar to the way that I do. One of the first ones I watched, and I still think it's brilliant stuff, is Rodent, or Rodent Restore, as he is now, who's making a landfill bike at the moment, which is just a fascinating watch. He will profess to not being a mechanic. I'd argue that point, but he is. The stuff he does is just brilliant. It's really good. He's doing some great fabrication work. By fabrication, I'm talking, like reconditioning chains to be brackets for mudguards and all sorts of weird and crazy shit. And it's brilliant. He's got a great manner. He's nice and down to earth, and he just chats away while he's doing it. So that's yeah, go and check him out. And again, I'll link him at the bottom. It's really good stuff. Yeah, awesome. You're probably bored of me chatting away now, and I keep trying to kick the camera, so I'm going to take the camera off. I do know that to get the rear brake off, I need to take the whole exhaust pipe off, so I'm going to do that, and then just get going on these. Get going on the Allen bolts holding on the side cover. Cool, catch you in a bit. Right, so I got the cover off. Working out how things work, which is kind of why working out how things work. It's terrible English, but I'm not going to see from there. Let's get you from the side a little bit. So, what does the clutch do? What does the handle, the lever do? Well, as I discovered, a central element there. Put pressure on it, put in the clutch, which then makes sense because it then takes the load off the cover. Now, as much as I've now got the manual for this, the Haynes manual, on the suggestion of many people, it was just flicking through the XS Facebook site that kind of got me onto got me onto a thing here, and that's the fact that there is different orientations that you can put the basket on. And because the number of teeth isn't divisible by 6, and there's 6 bolts within that, it's not universal, i.e. you can't just put it on at any angle. The one bit it did mention was that there's a hole in the case. There is a hole in the case. And there is a mark on the edge of the basket. And there is the mark. Now, before I go through, frankly, the arse-ache of taking this off again and pulling it out again, I had the hole at the top. Not intentionally, that's just where it finished when I was finished pissing around with it. The mark is at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is orientate it the other way around, chuck it back on dry without the oil on it, and just to see whether or not I get any bite in that clutch cable again. Cool. Well, bugger me. I've got a clutch back just by spinning that clutch case. So on the handle, on the pillar, I've got bite on it again. It's not just randomly flapping. So it looks like the issue that I'd done, or the problem that I'd created for myself, was just by putting the basket case on 180 degrees out, which is fucking brilliant, excuse my French. I'm going to have a celebratory cup of tea and then pull out that kickstand and see if I can piss around with it to get the bloody thing working again. No, I don't quite believe that. I wish I'd tested that before. Right, mental note and note for all of those: if you're pissing around with your clutch basket before you put the case back on, just give the handle a pull, the lever a pull. That's now disengaging nicely. Happy with that. Right, grill. Let's see if I can piss it away. Get a cup of tea and piss around with this stand. Okay, so welcome back, and it's a fair amount of time later because I do stuff in the house, including the dog that had knocked a jigsaw puzzle off a table. The heady life I lead. Right, so I pulled it out and just done it again, reseated it, and just really made sure there is tension in that spring already. Now, no real way of telling if I got this right, but giving it a go, you can feel it. It's trying and it's giving it compression, so I can only assume that it's cool, but I don't know. Right, let's just check on that clutch again. Yeah, that's releasing. Right, so I'm just going to put a bit more on the clutch plates. In fact, I think I'll try and dig out my torque wrench, make sure I get the torque right on them, and then start chucking it back together. Cool. Okay, so that's side cover back on. Got quite good and quite quick at doing that. It's now just putting it back together in a bit of reverse order. Now, lesson learned on the brake is that the brake unit that you bolt it onto shifts back. It's not a solid unit, obviously, because it's attached to the rest of it. So one, be careful. Two, stick your fingers on the other side to make sure that you don't just push it through. So where are we? What's my confidence levels? Is this going to work? There's no reason why it shouldn't. But you don't know till you try, do you? And that's what all of this is about. It is about trying something new, trying a skill you haven't used before or don't know if you've got. At the moment it's about trying to find a socket that I'll put down somewhere. Looks that one. Yeah, it's about trying, which is kind of leads me on to why I do this. It's so that, for one, I've got some reference point to go back on if I've balled something up or I can't remember if I've done something. Trying to remember whether I've up-jetted or down-jetted is a perfect example of that. But it's about building a knowledge base. So this bit, i.e. sorting out the slipping starter, is from another site, from Brodie's site, a Aussie Kiwi, I think it's a Kiwi guy. I'm probably going to really upset him if I get that either way round wrong. But yeah, that's from his site. The having a dot in the wrong place on the basket for the clutch was from a Facebook site. And it kind of brings me to the point, if you don't know, look. And if you can't find it, ask. It can be quite intimidating, I get it, on some sites, to go in and there's people discussing deep guts elements of bikes that you don't even know what the words mean, let alone what they're doing or how they do it, or what they should or could be doing better or worse. It can be quite intimidating, but just ask. It's yeah. No such thing as a daft question. Oh yeah, there is. Loads of such things as a daft question in every circumstance. But just ask. You might get a bit of ribbing because it is a completely bone question. But frankly, if you get the answers to a completely bone question, what's the problem? What you lost? And actually, sort of slightly doing my own ego here, it's quite flattering to be asked. Sorry, I'm just chucking the exhaust back on here. It's quite flattering to be asked in the first place, and it's quite a nice thing to be able to help somebody. I know that's relying on people being nice, and not everybody is, but it's nice to be asked. It's quite flattering to be asked. It makes you feel better if you can help somebody. And I have to say, the whole biking community isn't solely, I suppose it is slightly as well, but it isn't solely people with leather and beards hating the world and hating anybody else on the road. In the majority of cases, it's a bunch of good blokes that like getting their hands dirty, and girls, don't get me wrong. Although, according to my stats and my viewership, I think it's pretty much entirely blokes that follow this site. But, yeah, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, if you're female and watching this. But, you know, it's good people, fundamentally. And particularly when it comes to old bikes, the demographic is generally a bit older. Most of us are past that whole bullshit and bravado stage. I'm not saying we've never done it, but most of us are past it, and it's just people trying to help each other out. So particularly when you look back at some of the sites that I've mentioned, including Delboy's, Charlie's, Nick's, John's, mine, it's all just about keeping bikes on the road, keeping smiles on faces as much as we can do, keeping hands dirty, because we all like it, really. Right, that's the exhaust back on. The bit that I was looking for. No, it's not. It is. I've just done all that by hand, and the sodding thing. Just tighten that up. Try using it the right way around. Talking about expertise on bikes, you knobhead. Right. Yeah. Sorry for the extreme face close up there. Not pleasant for either of us. Oh, one day I will develop the skill of being able to look at a nut and knowing what size it is. Not yet, though. Not yet. Yeah, it's just about tinkering the bikes, pushing the magic noise button and making it make a noise, which is just a wonderful feeling when it didn't do it before. And it's particularly tricky at the moment because with all the coronavirus restrictions on, it's dubious about selling bikes as to whether or not we should be doing it, whether or not you shouldn't. Key workers still need to get to work, and I think we're now suitably far into this whole coronavirus and restrictions. We realise key workers aren't just doctors and nurses. Although, yeah, Warren's a really good example. Warren looks after kids so that doctors and nurses can go into work. Because if Warren wasn't doing his job, said doctor or nurse couldn't do that. So there's a lot of knock-ons. I can't remember what order I did this in. I think it's the pedal, then the starter. Yeah. If I remember correctly. Yeah, it's. Yeah, there you go. Perfect example of why film. If I wasn't sure, I could go back and look. And it takes seconds. Now, come on, you swine. Big fan of the encourager. Doing something wrong there. I haven't put the washers on before somebody points it out. I was just using the nut to squeeze it down. mark there. Right, all back together. Let's get the oil back in, let it seep and see what happens. Now that I won't film. Cheers. Right then, let's see what happens. Keys might be handy that if you're more on. First things first, see if I get anything out of this. Not overly hopeful. Oh, what's that? Kickstart's catching again. Appear to have fixed the kickstart. Well, it's not starting, but hey, I wasn't expecting it to. It's not really done a lot in a long time. Try on the big button. See. And this is a bit of an art form. Oops. Slightly adulterated fuse mechanism, so someone's tinkered with it in the past. Need to adjust it to get away from using the glass tubes, which are a bit of a pain. That's better. Neutral. The gear sensor switch has come off, which is a bit of a pisser, but I'll sort that. It's certainly wanting to. At least the kit's compressing again, which is nice. But a bit of ease on it. Come on, mate, I know you're working, I know you're sparking, I know your carbs are clean. So, it's been full a little while. What I might just do is just bleed the carbs for a couple of minutes, get rid of the old fuel. And get to that. Yeah. Right. Back in a second. I'm just going to let the fuel out of these carbs because it might have flooded with all the start tries over the last X times. Okay, so that's the 5 rolls drained out into a suitable container, not directly onto the floor, then always end up with some spillage. I'll flick it on prime for a couple of secs, see if just fresh fuel going through makes any difference to the price of fish. Remember correctly, none of my spark plugs fit this. Well, none of my spark sockets do anyway. Ouch. I hit this off last time. See if that one. Don't think I'm getting sparks, which is frustrating. Adjustable. So about this bike, I keep banging my head on it. About fighting back. Really black. Right, that's certainly getting sparked. Ow! Just to prove it, just bit me after I've done it. A bit stupid. A bit of fuel while I'm there. Who's that with the door? Where you gone? Certainly helps. Come on, you old bugger. Get me going. So close. So close. Warm up nicely. Oh, you know you want to. You tease. I'm not careful, I'm going to be in the front seat of my wife's car. God, you're fucking exhausting. play with the, I'll get the cones back on. I need to set the idle. Right, I'll do that. I'll turn you off and do that because it's dull, and then see if I can get a half decent idle out of it. Right, so let's see. A bit of restriction on the cones again. Not much. Let's try the button first. Sake. Let's give it a kick as well. Celebrating too early there. I'm not surprised. It needs a run. It's not being running. So. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's me for the day. One happy nat and one happy knacker's yard, because there's nothing knackered in it. I'm not saying they don't all need something doing to them, but yeah, 3 running bikes. Having said that, I couldn't get the SV started because the battery's dead. I'd left the lights on, which she doesn't seem to like. So that's on charge, but that seems started up with a jump, easy. Yeah, well happy with that. That'll do me for the weekend. Been interesting editing this one. I'm not sure how much I'm going to leave in because there's lots of me rambling and bestowing my various pearls of wisdom, and not quite so much tinkering. But that said, what have I got done? That XS650 now starts on the button, which it didn't even have one before, but now starts on the button and on the kick again, and is running hunky-dory, or running hunky-dory. And is fine, it's got fresh oil in it, etc, etc. It's running rough, so next thing's probably air fuel screws, just try and balance it out a little bit, and then balance the carbs, which I don't have a carb balancer. I would normally borrow Charlie's, but within the current restrictions that's not really a goer, so I may have to invest in one myself. Then what? I really don't know with this. I really don't. I've got wing mirrors, they arrived ages ago. There you go, they're up behind there. I've got wing mirrors I can put on. I could just do it as is, but bearing in mind it hits 40 in April, if I'm going to do anything with it, I've got now till April. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you looked at, it might have inspired you to do something similar. You don't need the best tools in the world, you don't need the most knowledge in the world. You've got YouTube, you've got people you can ask. You'd be amazed at what you can achieve. If you're thinking of picking up a bike and having a tinker, now is the time to do it, because with all the coronavirus restrictions, the arse has utterly fallen out of the market, and you can get some amazing bikes for pennies at the moment. You know, it's a buyer's market. It's a pisser if you're trying to sell anything, but it's certainly a buyer's market. Right, cool. Thanks very much all. I'll catch up with you later. Please like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you again on the next one. Cheers. Ta-da.